Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something pretty intense today, a true crime classic that really, shook up the genre. Truman Capote's In Cold Blood.
Yeah, it's one of those books you can't just put down,
Mm.
even if you wanted to.
Right. And what really gets me is how Capote approached it. He called it, get this, a nonfiction novel.
Nonfiction novel. That's
I
interesting.
know, it's this crazy blend of super detailed reporting, but written with this, literary beauty, almost poetic.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean.
So we're going to unpack that style, how it just pulls you into this whole world and explore not just, the crime itself, but the effects it had on literally everyone involved, the victims, the killers, the town.
Everyone, it's like a ripple effect, right?
Totally. And speaking of victims, we got to start with the Clutter family. Picture this. Herbert Clutter, like this super successful farmer in Kansas,
Okay.
and his wife Bonnie, their daughter Nancy, total all-American teenager, popular, and their son Kenyon, lived in this small town, Holcomb, Kansas.
Yeah.
Like the embodiment of the American dream, right?
Sounds idyllic.
Totally was.
Yeah.
Until one November night in 1959, their lives were just brutally cut short.
Yeah, that's what makes this case so unsettling, just the sheer brutality of it.
And the killers, Perry Smith and Dick Hickock, these two ex-convicts, they broke into the Clutter house. They thought there was this huge safe filled with cash.
The score, basically.
Exactly. But, there was no safe, at all.
So they got away with.
A few bucks.
Yeah.
And they left behind this horrific scene. I mean, it just shattered the town.
Tragic. Really underscores the senselessness of it all.
And this is where Capote, he does this amazing thing. He takes us deep into the minds of these killers. Doesn't just tell us what they did. He explores their past, their motivations, even their dreams. It's intense.
He tries to understand them, not just judge them.
Exactly. And Perry Smith, man, his childhood, talk about rough. I mean, he saw his mom get beaten, bounced between orphanages and foster homes. Never had a stable family to speak of.
So a very, very troubled past.
Yeah. And the thing is, despite all that, despite the horrible things he did, people who knew him said he could be sensitive, artistic even. He loved poetry, played guitar, craved connection.
It's almost a contradiction, right?
It is. And then you've got Dick.
Yeah.
He's different, more cold, calculating. He's the one who, latched onto this rumor about the Clutter's safe and convinced Perry to go along with it.
The mastermind, in a way.
Totally. Dick was a con man through and through, always looking for an angle.
Yeah.
And he saw Perry as someone he could manipulate.
And vulnerable.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's on one hand, you have the Clutters representing this pure good American dream, right? On the other, you have Perry and Dick.
Yeah.
Broken, desperate, kind of embodying the dark side of that dream.
The flip side of the coin.
Yeah, exactly. And it really makes you think, how much do our pasts shape who we become? Could Perry's life have been different, if he had had a decent childhood? It's heavy stuff.
It definitely makes you question nature versus nurture.
Totally. Okay, so then we come to the investigation. And this is where we meet Alvin Dewey. He was the KBI agent leading the case. And man, this guy was dedicated. I mean, this was way before DNA testing, fancy forensics, all that.
So old school detective work.
Totally. Dewey and his team, they were poring over every inch of the crime scene, interviewing hundreds of people, following every lead, no matter how small. And Capote, well, he got incredible access. He actually sat in on some of these interviews.
Wow. That's unusual.
I know, right?
Wow.
It gave him this, inside view of the whole investigation as it was happening, unfolding in real time.
So he was almost part of the investigation.
Almost. And get this, the big break in the case. It came from Dick, bragging to his cellmate about the murders. Of all things.
Oh, wow. Talk about irony.
Right. It just shows how narcissistic Dick was. He didn't even seem to grasp the weight of what he'd done.
Or maybe he just couldn't help himself. Had to boast.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So then comes the trial, and eventually Perry and Dick are sentenced to death. And this brings up a whole other set of questions about justice, the death penalty, morality, big stuff.
Yeah, no easy answers there.
Nope. And Capote, he doesn't shy away from any of it. He just presents it all unflinchingly and lets the reader grapple with it.
He puts it in your lap, basically.
He does. And even in those final moments, on death row, Capote keeps blurring the lines between victim and villain. He describes Perry's remorse, his fear of dying, and it makes it impossible to just dismiss him as a monster.
Humanizes him in a way.
Yeah. In Cold Blood, it's a masterclass in storytelling. It takes true crime and elevates it beyond the sensational. You don't just read the facts, you feel them. You see the darkness that can exist in, seemingly normal people. And You can't help but ask yourself, what if this was my town, my family? It gets under your skin.
That's the power of this nonfiction novel idea. It combines the realness of facts with the emotional impact of fiction.
And Capote got that impact by really immersing himself. He lived in Holcomb for years, built relationships with everyone involved, earned their trust. He was at the trial, visited Perry and Dick on death row, documented everything. And that level of immersion, it set a new standard for true crime writing. It's still influencing authors and filmmakers today.
So we've just scratched the surface here. This book has layers. And there are a lot of debates around it. Like, how much did Capote's close relationship with Perry affect how he portrayed him? Was it truly objective?
Right. It's a good question. And it makes you wonder, how reliable are Perry's own accounts? Did he manipulate Capote? It's something to think about for sure.
Definitely adds another dimension to the whole story. Makes you question everything.
Exactly.